I'll put the microphone down a little further. I want to tell you first of all that we're here in Trafalgar Square, but up in Edinburgh today, there is also a Republican rally where two Green members of the Scottish Parliament, Patrick Harvey and Maggie Chapman, are also speaking. So I reckon we can all say really loudly, "Hello, Edinburgh! Hello, Edinburgh!" You can do louder than that. Come on now. Hello, Edinburgh! Well done. And there's a phrase, I don't know if there's anything going on in Wales today, but one of the things that I've heard Daffod Wigley, who's one of the Plaid Cymru members of the House of Lords, saying is that Wales has got very indie curious. And I think that's a good phrase, because I think there's quite a few people out there today who are also Republic curious. So let's say hello to all of them. Well done. Okay. If you're standing there wondering, yes, my accent comes from Australia. Well done, you knew it. Well judged, that man over there with the flag. And one of the things that I can bring you from knowing about what happens in Australia is you may know that Australia had a referendum on becoming a republic in 1999. And they lost that referendum. And the reason they lost that referendum is that they didn't have an answer for what comes next. Now, Republic as an organisation is very focused on what's going away, but I and the Green Party are also focused on what comes next, because unless you have that answer, then you are not going to win a referendum. You're not going to get to where you want to go, which is a society in which everybody is equal. So I'm going to come back to that, but to start off with, why do we need to get rid of the monarchy? Well, one of them is that point about equality and about financial equality. Some of you probably know that the monarchy doesn't have to pay stamp duty. Like everybody else, like every other corporation, the Duchy of Lancaster, the Duchy of Cornwall, when they sell something, they do not pay stamp duty. Now, I'm really pleased that in the Scottish Parliament up in Holyrood, the Greens actually have put down an amendment to a law to say the royals must pay stamp duty. But of course, it's more than that. It's worth thinking about just how much wealth of this society is being held in such a few hands. Now, royalty is far from the only issue here. We have a huge problem with inequality right across our society, and that has to be tackled. And that's why I and the Green Party champion a universal basic income for everybody. That, you know, royals never have to worry about putting food on the table, keeping a roof over their head. No one should have to worry about keeping a roof over their head, putting food on the table. We should not rest until the last food bank closes because of lack of demand. But, you know, let's look at those two, the Duchy of Cornwall and Lancaster. 180,000 acres, 5,400 land holdings. And you know what? The NHS is paying £11 million over 15 years to park their ambulances on royal land. Dartmoor Prison is paying £1.5 million. We know how incredibly overstretched, underfunded our prison service is. They're paying £1.5 million to the royals just to have a prison built on Dartmoor. That's exactly, shame's the right word. Now, I spoke about the stamp duty, but those duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall also don't pay corporation tax. They don't have to comply with a compulsory purchase order. So let's see a town or a village wants some land for some really good public purpose. They cannot say, as they could to any other landowner, we are going to compulsorily purchase that land. That is a continuation of feudalism. And I think we can do with some movement here. Let's do a little chant. End feudalism now. End feudalism now. End feudalism now. End feudalism now. Well done. Okay. And of course, the other side of this is the people, the other side, the opposite to the royals, are the people who've got nothing. Now here in London, 1 in 29 children in the whole of London is living in temporary accommodation. Utterly inadequate housing. Across the country, there's 151,000 children living in temporary accommodation, often B&Bs with no cooking facilities. I'm part of an all-party parliamentary group that had to fight to make sure that every child, small child in temporary accommodation, if they need it, has a cot, a proper place to sleep. And then think of what else is just down the road from here. Buckingham Palace, just down the road. Now I looked this up and it seems a bit unclear. The internet doesn't quite agree, but there's either 52 or 78 royal and guest bedrooms in Buckingham Palace. And there's 188 staff bedrooms there in Buckingham Palace. Let's contrast that. The children sleeping in a B&B without a cot, and what's happening just down the road. Now, I think we can all agree that is absolutely not right. And then, of course, there's the archaisms. The fact that the monarch has to be a Protestant Christian under the Act of Settlement of 1701. Is it any wonder we've still got feudalism when the Act of Settlement of 1701 still applies? And you know what? That excludes so many people from ever being the monarch or the monarch marrying so many people. What a strange, weird situation that is. And let's come to some more of this archaic history. There's a Royal Marriages of Act of 1772. You mightn't be right up on this, I confess I had to look it up. All the descendants of King George II have to get the monarch's permission to marry. But don't worry, in 2013 there was a new law. So now it's only the top 6 people in line to the throne who have to get the monarch's permission to marry. So, you know, I bet you didn't think of coming here today and hearing this. But what we need is human rights for royals. They should have the same rights as everybody else. And you know what? That was a phrase I used back when I was Green Party leader in 2012, when one of the princes, I've forgotten which one, was born. I said that what I hoped, what my wish was as Green Party leader, was that by the time this child turned 18, he should have the same right to do whatever he wanted with his life as everybody else born that day. And of course, the other side of that is everyone else born that day should also have the possibility of becoming our head of state. Now, I'm sure you've heard today, you'll often hear people saying, oh, but we've got a constitutional monarchy, they don't do politics, they only do the ceremonial stuff. Well, this is obviously not true. You might have heard of the Black Spider memos that The Guardian exposed after a huge legal fight. And some of what's in those Black Spider letters, what we found is Prince Charles, when he was still a prince, was bombarding government departments with letters about what he thought about how the country was being governed, what he thought about how the country was operating. But it's all right. Don't worry. You don't have to worry. He was only writing in his capacity as a private citizen. So we can all be certain that those letters were only getting exactly the same amount of attention as if you were to write a handwritten letter to a government department and expect it to respond to it. But what was in those letters? Well, there was a letter to Lord Irvine, the Lord Chancellor. Prince Charles, as he was then, was complaining about the Human Rights Act, was critical, and I quote, of the degree to which our lives are ruled by politically incorrect interference. So the king, as he is now, was complaining about Parliament creating rules for all of our society. And I don't think that's acceptable. Do you agree with that? That's not acceptable. And those black spider memos, there was a letter in 2002 when there was something that happened just down the road from here. Some of you, the older people, may remember the Countryside Alliance March. It happened in 2002. Yes, I'll agree with that. Oh, okay, there's a band shooting Stop Killing in the Countryside t-shirt over there, well done. Which, of course, the Royals are very closely linked to. But one of the black spider minos on that day said, reflecting on the views from a farmer in Cumbria about the treatment of rural workers, and this is what the now king is saying: if we were black or gay, we would not be so victimised. That is deeply disturbing. But, you know, human rights are not really what the royals go into. Declassified UK, and if you don't follow them on social media, we were just hearing about social media, definitely think about following them. They have uncovered, since the Arab Spring in 2011, the royal family, the king, have had 120 meetings with royal families from the Middle East. These are families that oversee awful, repressive regimes. They include the Saudi Arabian royal family, which is one of the world's most abusive, human rights abusive regimes. And our royals are cuddling up to their royals. And I don't think that's right, and we shouldn't be doing that. The king had a photo of himself taken with the Sheikh of Dubai. Now, the late Queen, after various things I'll get to in a second came out, said she was not going to have her photo taken with the Sheikh of Dubai. But the Sheikh of Dubai, a British court ruled that he had abducted and detained 2 of his daughters. Utterly illegal, with no legal basis whatsoever. Utterly misogynistic against his own daughters. And King Charles had his photo taken with the Sheikh of Dubai. And I think you're all going to agree with me, that's absolutely not right. Okay, I have a feeling I'm probably going to have someone grabbing me by the scruff of the neck and dragging me off stage soon. So I'm going to get to my final point, which is, I started by saying, from the perspective of the Australian referendum, what we need to do is say, what do we have instead? And the fact is, it's not just the monarchy. We actually have bigger problems than the monarchy. We have a society that is not a democracy. The UK is not a democracy, and not just because of the monarchy. The UK, we have a first-past-the-post electoral system that means that we have a government, Sir Keir Starmer down the road, got the backing of 34% of the people who voted and now has 100% of the power. That's 20% of eligible voters gave us this government. So what do we do? What do we do to tackle all of these problems? And yes, I will say also as a member of the House of Lords, the unelected House of Lords is also a huge problem. Thank you. Go on, that deserves a louder cheer. So what we need is a modern, functional, democratic constitution. That means no monarchy, no unelected House of Lords, and a parliament that reflects the views of the people. So how do we get that? Well, my answer to this is let's have the absolute reverse of monarchy. Instead of having one family there at the top of the tree, let's have a People's Constitutional Convention, a People's Assembly. People representative from all around the country, by age, by gender, by background, by education, a representative group of people, and say, how do we want in 21st century Britain a modern, democratic, functional constitution? And you know what? I will absolutely guarantee you that that People's Constitutional Convention will not say we want a monarchy. They will say we want a modern, functional, democratic constitution, and that's what we all want. So I've got one final thing to say to you, something that I say to all the audiences I speak to. We have a world where the monarchy absolutely is political, where we have a few people doing politics. We have a few people doing politics. What we need is a world where everyone makes politics what they do, not have done to them. That has to be the foundation of our democracy. And when I go and talk to 10-year-olds, I say, make politics what you do, not have done to you. Let's all do politics. Let's all have an equal say in those politics. And let's say, end feudalism now!